right, guys. So, properties of rational exponents. This is going to be very similar to what we were doing last two videos. All right. So, what we were doing the last videos were properties of regular exponents, so whole numbers. Now, when we're going to have rational exponents, what we're going to be doing is the exponents are going to be in fraction form. Okay. So let's look at example one. So here's an example of a rational exponent: 7 to the 1/4 power times 7 to the 1/2 power. Well, remember when we talked about in the when we were reviewing properties of exponents, when the bases are the same, what did we do with the exponents? We added them. All right, so it's going to be the same thing here. We're just going to add those exponents. All right, so 1/4 plus 1/2. Just get your damn calculator. All right, if you're not sure how to do this. All right, so it's 7 3/4. You don't have to do anything else with it. You leave it alone. All right. Part B. Let's look at this one. Let's say I gave you x to the 3/4 times x to the 1/2 power. Again, the bases are the same. All right. Bases are the same. We add the exponents. Do I care that they're fractions? Nope. I don't give a damn. All right. I don't care. So 3/4 plus 1/2. Now, if you use your calculator, you're going to end up with um, 1 and 1/4. Well, we don't write it that way. We always write it as a improper fraction. All right. So you're not going to write it like that. If you write it like that, it's going to be wrong. So it's going to be x to the 5/4. So remember when you're doing this on your calculator, if you guys have forgotten, you're going to hit 3, you're going to hit the ABC button, and then you're going to hit 4. And for you guys that maybe forgot how to convert, so on your calculator, you might get 1 and 1. I forget what the little symbol looks like. I think it's like that. I don't remember. Well, anyway, remember you're going to hit the second key, top left. You're going to hit the fraction key, and then you're going to hit the equal sign. All right. So these are the steps to use on your calculator. All right. Part C. What if I gave you 7x to the 2/3 power times 3x to the 5/4 power? All right. Sorry, it's supposed to be 5/4. I don't like the way this looks. Please don't make it look like an exponent. All right. Make sure that it's raised up. So 5/4. Don't do it like I just did. I hate that. All right. So make sure it looks like an exponent. Well, just looking at that right there, what's being raised to the 2/3 power? Just x. All right. Just x is being raised to the 2/3 power. So what we're going to do is, since we're multiplying, all right, simply multiply those coefficients together. So 7 times 3, all right? So I'll write it out. 7 times 3. Just multiply like you've always multiplied. And now when I look at this, that base and that base are exactly the same. So what do we do when the bases are the same and we're multiplying? We add the exponents. So 2/3 plus 5/4. All right? So 7 times 3 gives me 21. And then 2/3 plus 5/4. Remember, now I'm gonna have to do this mess. All right, I'm gonna have to, down here. All right, make sure you're gonna know how to do this, because when you type that 2/3 plus 5/4, you're gonna get 23/12. Okay. All right. Hopefully you're good with when the bases are the same. All right. So here, let me write in a different color. Here, these were same base. All right, same base. Now let's look at example 2. All right, example 2. This one is, remember when we were talking about in those last videos, power to a power. This is the one where you're going to multiply. You're going to multiply those exponents. All right, so part A, I have 6 to the 2/3 power raised to the 5th power. All right, and here's where I have a power raised to another power. Remember, all you're doing is just multiply. Multiply those two, okay? So I end up with 6 to the 2/3 times 5. And remember, when you're multiplying fractions, you multiply straight across. So I could think about a 1 being underneath there. So you're going to multiply 2 times 5, 3 times 1. So I end up with 6 to the 10 over 3 power. All right. And remember, just leave it alone. You don't have to do anything. Part B, x to the 4/3 to the 1/2 power. All right. Sorry, that's supposed to be a 3. You guys know I suck at writing on my tablet. All right. So again, power raised to a power. We multiply. So x to the 4/3 times 1/2. So we end up with, when you multiply these two together, you end up with 2/3. Just leave it alone. There's nothing to do to it. All right, part C. We have 3 to the 4th power, x to the 1/2 power. All this raised to the 2/3. Now in this case, I have two things where I have to multiply. All right, remember, we're multiplying. I have two things to multiply. So I have 3 to the 4 times 2/3, and I have x to the 1/2 times 2/3. All right, so again, grab your calculator. If you suck at multiplying fractions, or if you're horrible at multiplying fractions, remember, please use that ABC button. Okay, that's your fraction key. Or some of you guys, I think on your calculators you had this. This is the nicer one. Okay, this is the nicer key. All right, so then when you do 4 times 2/3, you end up with 3 to the 8/3 x to the 1/3. Right? And again, please make sure these look like exponents. All right, please make sure they look like exponents. I know we're not in class, but if you write it like this in class or on your paper, that's wrong. Right? Please make sure. I'm gonna even fix mine a little bit because I'm not liking it. Make sure that it looks like an exponent. Okay? Let me get rid of this mess because that just aggravates me. It looks so damn wrong. All right. Example 3. Now what I'm gonna do. All right. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix these problems together. All right. Mix them up. All right. Mix the two properties up. So this one, I have w to the 1/4 power times w to the 3/7 power. All of this raised to the 6th power. All right. Bases are the same. And remember, when you have two variables next to each other like that, we're lazy, but just know that you're actually multiplying. Okay? So when you multiply this out, remember what you do. You add the exponents. All right? I leave one of the variables alone. All right? I get rid of one of those variables, and I just add the exponents. So 1/4 plus 3/7, we end up with 19 over 28. Raised to the 6th power. Yeah, I know it's a funky number, but that's what happens when you're making crap up. Okay? Now, what happens when you have a power raised to a power? Remember, we're multiplying. You multiply. So I have w to the 19 over 28 times 6. All right, we ready for this? We end up with 57 over 14. And you leave it alone. There's nothing more you have to do to it. All right. There's nothing else that you have to do to it. We can actually simplify this a little bit further, but for what we're doing, that's good enough. All right. Part B. 3z to the 5/3 times 3 to the 1/2 z to the 3/4. All this raised to the 2/3 power. All right. So there's a lot of crap going on here. What do you notice? Well, this this part right here is outside the parenthesis. So I don't have to worry about doing anything to that just yet. All right. Here I have power to a power. Multiply. All right, multiply that out. So remember, we said we're just going to recopy this mess here. All right, 3z to the 5/3. And then this ends up being 3 to the 1/2 times 2/3, z to the 3/4 times 2/3. All right, so all I did was I just dropped those exponents down and then multiplied. All right, I'm hoping I'm not screwing you guys up with all these colors. All right, but I'm trying to help you guys out because I know this is not the ideal thing. So I have 3z to the 5/3 times 3 to the, well, 1/2 times, excuse me, 1/2 times 2/3 gives me 1/3. Z to the 3/4 times 2/3 gives me 1/2. All right. Now I look at this thing. I'm multiplying. All right. So I know I'm multiplying. And what do I notice? I notice that I have bases that are the same. All right. I have bases that are the same. Well, remember what we talked about. What is the exponent here? All right. Remember, people in math are lazy. What's the exponent? Oh, sorry. I wanted to erase. So the exponent there is a 1. Let me use a different color. All right. It's a 1. If it's not listed, if it's not written, it's a 1. So I have 3 to the 1 plus 1/3. And then I have z to the 5/3 plus 1/2. And again, just grab your calculators. So 1 plus 1/3. Sorry, that's really nasty looking. This is a 1/3. All right. So 1 plus 1/3 gives me 4/3. And then I have 5/3 plus 1/2 gives me 13/6. Right? So I'm hoping at some point you guys pause and try to do the next step yourself. And if you get stuck, you can always come back to the video. All right, very last problem. Let's make an ugly one here. Let's make this one really ugly. All right. So I have r to the -2 power, t v to the 1/3 times r to the 5/2. Yeah. I know every time I say r, I sound like a damn pirate. Shut up. T to the -1/5. V to the -1/3. All of this raised to the 1/4 power. Okay, now we're looking at this. Again, I know I'm multiplying. I'm going to do what's inside the parentheses first, all right? I want to take care of those parentheses first. I want to do all that crap inside the parentheses. All right, so bases are the same. I'm going to add the exponents. Do I care that this r has a negative, it has a -2? Nope. Plus 5/2. All right, one more time. I have bases that are the same. Oh, what the hell. If I just knew my alphabet, I'd be a whole lot better at this. All right, so bases are the same. Add the exponents. Remember, what's the exponent here? It's a 1. So I have 1 minus 1/5. And then I have bases here that are the same. So I have v to the 1/3 minus 1/3. All of this crap is still being raised to the 1/4 power. All right, bust out your calculator. -2 plus 5/2 gives me r to the 1/2. T 1 minus 1/5 gives me 4/5. And then v 1/3 minus 1/3 to the 0 power. All right, now let's talk about this real quick. What is anything to the 0 power? Anything to the 0 power, remember this equals 1, okay? So you got two ways of thinking about this. You can just say, all right, this whole thing equals 1. So then you just have 1 to the 1/4, which is all right. You'd have 1 to the 1/4 power, which is still just 1. Or we just say, you know what, screw it, we don't need to worry about it. Okay? So what happens when we have powers raised to powers? Yes, we multiply. So I have r to the 1/2. Yeah. Shut up. I know it sounded like a pirate again. All right, 1/2 times 1/4. T to the 4/5 times 1/4. And then here I have this v to the 0 times 1/4. All right. So r to the 1/8 t 4/5 times 1/4 gives me 1/5. And then remember, v to the 0 times anything is 0. But again, what did we just finish saying? This is going to equal 1. So my final answer is just r to the 1/8 t to the 1/5 power. All right. If you really want to put this one, that one would go out in front. Okay, but you don't need it. All right, so hopefully you guys are getting a little bit better with properties of exponents. You're noticing in this video, I'm slowing it down. I only did 2 properties. All right, all that other stuff was review, so that's why I went through them really fast. But here, these are review, so I wanted to slow it down. Hopefully that helps.